Well, good morning, everybody. We're reading through Esther. Yesterday ended up to be Esther, chapter 1 to 5, in just in case you were wondering. And this morning it's Esther, the rest of it, Esther 6 to 10, and here everything gets turned around for the Jews. So the first half of Esther was really all bad stuff for the Jews, and then the second half we see things turned around. And this is where I wanted to point something out, something really, really important here of how things get turned around, what caused them to be turned around. And we know, listen, Esther's bravery is incredible considering how old she probably was or how young she probably was. Just the fact that she said, whether I live or I die, and she went in and she was faithful to the task that she was supposed to do. So everything moved forward, but it was based on a foundation, and the foundation was one act, one thing that Mordecai did. And back in that first half, when things were so bad, Mordecai did something that was important. He did the right thing, and he was at the gate, and he heard the conspiracy. He heard the two of the gatekeepers conspiring to assassinate the king, and Mordecai did the right thing. Understand, they're in captivity. Okay, this king has kept them captive. They're basically enslaved in this society. It's not their home. They're looked down upon, as Jews have been for most of their history. It wasn't a pleasant place to be, but Mordecai was in service to the king, and he did what was right. He was faithful. It was a faithful act of a servant to the king. He was loyal to the king, and he went to the king and he told the king about this. He told the king about this conspiracy. And so the two were arrested, investigated, found out it was true, and they were executed. Mordecai's the hero. You hold on to that, and that comes back into play later on. Just as Mordecai's enemy comes in to get the king's permission to kill Mordecai, to impale him, before he can open his mouth. And this is the whole turning point of the story. And it was pointed out by the enemy's wife and friends, and now you're in trouble. Before he can open his mouth, the king says he wants to honor somebody. How should he honor? And the suggestion was put forward, and the king turns around, okay, now go honor Mordecai, because he saved my life and he hasn't been honored, so I want you to honor him. So here this man came in to have Mordecai killed, and instead he has to parade him around the city, giving him honor. And everything changed there. And in fact, when it was the Queen Esther brought the accusations against this enemy, what absolutely convinced the king was when a servant came in and said, Mordecai has erected a pole to impale, not Mordecai, sorry, Mordecai's enemy has erected a pole to impale him in his backyard, this man that you honored, dear king. And it was like, what? And so this act of righteousness, this act of kindness, is what was upstanding to the king. That here Mordecai was faithful to him. Mordecai had saved his life, and this was a man he honored, and here supposedly his right hand man has plotted against Mordecai and his people, and Esther happened, the queen, the king's wife, happened to belong to this group of people. Whoa. So you know how it went from there, right? And this is what we have to understand, that there is always hope. It did not look, for the first half of Esther, it did not look hopeful at all for the Jews. This was just terrible. How are they going to get out of this? But Mordecai was still true to who he was. And because of one kind act, we see that this was part of the whole turning around of things. Everything turned around because of this one kind act. Like, that's just amazing. It is amazing. So you don't know what the Lord's going to use. You just need to be true and right to him. You've got to live according to his heart and his principles and what he's taught you. You've got to live in that zone, and you've got to trust him. You got to trust him to work everything out. Now, I want you to understand how far this went, okay? I do not know how to pronounce these names, but the king, and we're just going to call him Asa, okay? Let's just call him Asa, okay? Esther's husband, Asa, this king. He ends up being the father of Darius, okay? And it was Darius who gave the final word on the temple building. It had stopped. The prophets rose up, and because the prophets spoke, Haggai and Zechariah, who we've already read through their stuff, because they spoke, the temple started being rebuilt again. The governors of that province beyond the river complained to Darius. Darius did an investigation, and you have to understand, this is Darius, who was raised in the courts where Esther was queen, was raised in the court where Mordecai became second only to the king. There was an extreme influence there of the Jews in his life. And now as he investigated, he finds out that Cyrus had ordered for this temple to be built, and these governors were preventing it. So he warned them, he said, leave them alone. Not only do you leave them alone, but he fulfilled the prophecy that of Haggai and Zechariah. And he said, not only are you going to leave them alone, but you're going to take the money from the coffers there in that province, and you're actually going to give it to the Jews, and you're going to finance the building of this temple. Yeah, like Mordecai had influence here, okay? And it came from this one act where he was loyal to the king, and it opened the door for his people in so many ways, such incredible ways for years to come. So yeah, let's hold on to that. Didn't mean to go so long in that. It's just, for me, when you look at all the details, it's so intriguing, it's so incredible, it's so encouraging for us. So just be who you're supposed to be for him, according to his heart, and watch what he does with it. Have a great day, guys. God bless.